שנאי טוב, you who hate good. And we covered שנאי before in the second book of Timothy 3. שנאי, to hate and be hateful, as devouring severely, given the bondservant in understanding ein sof, without conclusion, this light or, and therefore hating tov, good, the harvest of good and evil in the basket. And this speaks of pleasant, like a good tree, good gold that is pure, and good fertile land. And therefore to add vav with the cholam in repentance, and beith building and abundance. Not only that, to complement what we covered before, now we're going to add ואהבי and love, evil, unpleasant, evil and bad. However, this is covering ahev in a negative sense, aleph the oxen or lower animal soul, and he ruled by the power of nefesh, flesh, to trample wholly with one's feet. And the beith is this evil inclination, as the earthly body, flesh, mind, will, emotions, instincts, and appetites and desires. And letter beith has an open sight towards the north. And this is the fair of heaven. And given on beith there can be two inclinations, as there are also two trees, Bereshith 2, verse 9. And made grow Yehovah Elohim min ha'edama kol eitz that is pleasing to the sight, ve'tova for food, ve'etz hechayim and the tree of life in the midst hegan of the garden, ve'etz hede'eth tov vara and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what happens when the serpent starts with an incomplete statement? That is a statement that is not the original. For in the previous chapter 2, Yehovah Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat. But on chapter 3, verse 1, he said, has Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? As a looking the glass in the wrong sense, because instead of seeing the good things that God has given them, he starts with what is lacking.
Yes, we can eat grapes, olives, fig, dates, pomegranates, and almonds.
Yes, but how about the forbidden fruits though?
But these are yummy.
But look at this one, it looks yummy.
Right.
And also the woman did not state perfectly what God said. For she states on verse 3, God has said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. That's why it's important to know exactly what Yehovah said. He said, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. It's not perhaps you may die, you will die. And that's when the serpent starts with a lie. Right away, the source of the evil spirit, breaking the 9th commandment. And now when this takes place, the woman goes and breaking the following one, in coveting it, this fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And what happens is when the man and the woman eat of the fruit, their eyes were opened, and now they have fear of heaven. It reads on verse 8, and they heard the voice of Yehovah Elohim, walking in the garden in the cool of the day. Ha-Adam, ואשתו hid themselves from the presence of Yehovah Elohim amongst the trees of the garden. And this is the fear of heaven. And to continue is in loving what is bad, evil, re. And re is harm, wickedness, from ra'e, hurt, to do injury, to be bad. Like the verb ra'e, to spoil, by breaking in pieces.
That's mine.
Oh, sorry. Given reish is not a dalet, is missing the yod, and not joined with that yod of God, the speech and intellect are for own gratification. They can even degenerate, grow worse, and become corrupt and evil, to the point that thoughts and speech are directed to hurting and conspiring against others. And ἐστιν speaks of ἐστιν hare, I the evil. As to looking to flay, the following letter of the Hebrew alphabet, you have lamet mem nun, samech, ἐστιν flay, tzadi. Flay follows ἐστιν. And now ἐστιν considers how it might consume for itself in greed and envy, flay. And we know what this entails, for some time ago we covered in praxis ton apostolon, chapter 7. However, the previous chapter, verse 15, and all that sat in the council, looking steadfastly on Stephanon, saw his face as he had been prosopon angelo, the face of an angel. And the chapter that we covered, the following one, is the speech of Stephanon. When he ends his speech on what he has to say, verse 54 reads, when they heard these things, they were cut to the heart, and they gnashed on him with their teeth, saying nothing. But he, being full of pneumatos hagio, looked up steadily into heaven, and saw dox and Theou kaiesun, standing on the right hand to Theou. And he said, Idu, I see tus uranus having been opened, and huion tu anthropu ekdexion hestota tu Theou. Then they cried out with a loud voice, Stop! And stopped their ears, and ran upon him with one accord, and cast him out of the city, and stoned him. And we see the effect of a speech. If you have an evil eye, they consider a way to consume it for itself in greed and envy. And this is what happened with Jesus as well. In Matthew chapter 12, they wanted to find a way to destroy him. Gazli, who strip off, pluck, plunder, to take away by force. Gazel, hands to shed innocent blood, and sowing seeds of the sword and death. By cutting, therefore gathering, by cutting with a weapon, sword, zayin, and lamed avav over a chav, therefore to incite, tame, and sacrifice. Ώρem, the skin, מעליהם, from of them, and this is the hide, the leather, the body covering, and from or, sounds similar to or, light, but in this case is ayin, and is again silent compared to re'e. Before was silent, looking badly, but in this case is of the servant. Given an elongated nun, as pulling and stretching, with an enwedged zayin or vav. And this is the attitude of humility, that sees and speaks not, for which is added and attached beauty and compassion given the עולם, and all to the top, the skin from off them. ושארם מעל עצמותם, and the flesh from their bones. And this is the flesh, relating also to near kin, relation, and by blood, given from שנאי as swelling out, the flesh swelling out from the bones. And שנאי is in pondering and chewing, given the sheva to sit upon it, and aleph with its perfect unity with infinite will of God, of Elohim, and being matured. This is the flesh. מעל עצמותם,
From off their bones.
עצם. And this is the first time when we have letter ayin not being silent anymore, when it's by itself. Now he has the segol. And now ayin as a well with chesed, prayer and temple worship. And in pursuing, in hunting, given now a bent over noon, being worked with the yod, the tzadi, towards the concealed blood, or as made in the bone marrow. And isn't this amazing, because it gives what truly happens in physiology and anatomy. Where is the blood made? Well, in the bone marrow. The marrow be the fatty network of connective tissue that fills the cavities of bones. And also marrow, defined as the choicest or most essential or most vital part of some idea or experience. And hematopoiesis is the process making of blood. Blood cells are made in the bone marrow, and these are concealed. They are not in circulation yet, because they are concealed. Then in the spongy tissue located inside the bones is where it contains the young parent cells called stem cells. These blood-forming stem cells can grow into all three types of blood cells, whether it be red, white cells, and platelets. And these stem cells make copies of themselves. And they also produce mature blood cells. And when blood cells are fully matured and functional, they leave the bone marrow and enter the blood. Healthy people may have enough stem cells to keep making all the blood cells they need every day. And also עצם from עצם, might and strength. And verse before this one, it reads, ואומר, שמעו נא. And I said, hear now, ראשי יעקב, heads of supplanter, heel holder, וקציני בית Israel, and ye rulers of the house of Israel, who contends with God, but ill prevails. And rulers from קצין, who deal with minor offenses, and ministering law, a magistrate, ruler and chief, who imitates God, letter kuv, and a righteous hunt for the 5. And you say, 5 what? Well, for that, we're going to turn to Yehoshua 10. And this is when the sun stands still.
Oh, I remember that day. I stood still upon Giv'on in the midst of heaven. I hasted not to go down about a whole day. Good old times. No day like that before it or after it. Oh, yes.
It all first starts when Giv'on, hill city, made peace with Israel. And being a greater city than a heap of ruins. And now other 5 kings of Emori, from Amer, Seir, as in verse 5, therefore Chemesheth melechei ha-Emori, the 5 kings of the sayers. Melech Yerushalayim, king of teaching peace. Melech Hebron, association. Melech Yeramuth, heights. Melech Lachish, invincible. Well, let's see. Melech Eglon, calf-like, gathered themselves together, and went up they and all their hosts, and encamped before Giv'on, and made war against it.
Traitors! In order to have peace of mind, we have consorted to teach you a lesson. That the calf of the heights is invincible. Wait! We have to do like calves, you know. That's a sheep. Ouch! All right.
And this is when the men of Giv'on sent unto Yehoshua to the camp of Gilgal, a wheel rolling, saying, Select not thy hand from thy servants. Come up to us quickly, and save us, and help us. For all the kings of Immori that dwell in the mountains are gathered together against us. Jehovah said to Yehoshua, Fear them not. I have delivered them into thine hand. And this is when he requested Jehovah that the sun stand still upon Giv'on, and also the moon in the valley of Eyalon, field of deer. And we read that the 5 kings, as they were fleeing, they hid in a cave. And verse 18, Yehoshua said, Roll great stones upon the mouth of the cave, and set men by it for to keep them. And after pursuing after their enemies, and all with a great slaughter, he comes back, and on verse 22, Yehoshua said, Open the mouth of the cave, and bring out those 5 kings unto me out of the cave. And they did so, and brought forth those 5 kings unto him out of the cave, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, eth melech Yermuth, eth melech Lachish, eth melech Eglon. Of the teaching peace, of association, of the heights.
Oh, thank you.
Yermuth, of heights.
From room, exalt, high.
The 4th one, invincible.
Till then.
And calf-like. And it came to pass, when they brought out those kings unto Yehoshua, that Yehoshua called for all the men of Israel, and said unto the captains, and this is where you get Katzin, the captains of the men, Enosh, to imitate God, and as a righteous hunt of these 5 kings, letter A.
Have 5 kings?
We're going to be hanged soon, so I'm not happy.
And Yehoshua said unto the captains, El Ketzinei en Shei Hemilchama, of the men of war which went with him.
Hey, have 5!
Come near, put your feet upon the necks of these kings, these 5 kings, hey! And they came near and put their feet upon the necks of them. And Yehoshua said unto them, Fear not, nor be dismayed, be strong and of good courage. For thus shall Jehovah do to all your enemies against whom ye fight. And afterward Yehoshua smote them and slew them, and hanged them on 5 trees, and they were hanging upon the trees until the evening. Perfect design for Katzin. And this is of Beit Israel, what they should do, as determining and deciding and cutting off these 5 kings. And Micah keeps going, Hiloth lachem. Is it not for you, lade'eth eth hemishpat, to know justice? And from shafet, to judge, to govern, to avenge. And it all starts with those trees that we started at the beginning. From which tree we feed off? Of the Spirit of God, or of the Spirit of Satan? For of these fruits we crave for, but the branches being the laws of God. As from Shemoth 20, Eseret hemitzvoth, 10 of them. He rishona, Anochi Yehovah Elohecha. He sheniya, the second one, Lo yihye lecha Elohim echeirim, no gods others. He shlishith, Lo thisa eth shem Yehovah Elohecha leshav, in vain. Don't do these. Oh my God. Oh God. Señor mío. Señor, mi madre. God doesn't like these. Stop it. Zachor ed yom heshebath lekedesho, to keep it holy. Don't exhaust yourself. At least one day out of 7, do nothing else but talk with Elohim, conversing with him all the good things you shared with him together during the week, and praise him. And that's Herevi'ith, the fourth one. Hechemishith, Keveid ed avicha, ve'ed imecha. And the first of them being with a promise that may belong Yamecha el ha'edama, esher Yehovah Elohecha nothein lach. And now we start the next ones with lots of laws, nots. Heshishith, lo tirtha, not you shall murder. Heshevi'ith, lo tin'af, not you shall commit adultery. Hesheminith, lo tignova. That's mine. Don't steal. Yaakov being good at breaking this one apparently. Hetishi'ith, lo the'ene, not you shall bear against your neighbor. Id shaker, witness false. And this is when the serpent starts his tricks. Leisha. No, I didn't. I don't reason with you, you know. I just stand by what Yehovah Elohim said. So I won't listen to you. And the one that the woman starts breaking it, although the first one, whether she considers Yehovah Elohim, but she coveted that fruit. No, I didn't. So when saw the woman that good tree for food, and that pleasant it was to the eyes, and desirous. Stop it! Okay, I admit it. Therefore, he isirith, lo thechamoth, beyith reyecha. Not you shall covet the house of your neighbor. Not you shall covet Eishe reyecha, nor his man, nor maid servant, vechemoro, nor his ox, vechol esher lereyecha, nor anything that is your neighbor's. And in keeping all these laws, you have fruits of the Spirit of Elohim. But the other tree, for which you could have, in disobedience, fornication, strife, disharmony, jealousy, envy, human reasoning, vanity, and competition. I'm better than him. I'm better than the man. I can be better than God. And this is the problem. In choosing between these trees, it's important to be immersed and be in perfect unity. This flesh that we talked on verse 2, she'ira, in perfect unity with the infinite will of God. And in seeking out of this well the concealed blood, and being now an elongated noon, pulled and outstretched, sacrificed, that others may strip off our skin as trophies in their covering, thinking that in their covering they will flee from God for his fear, the fear of heaven, that we talk from واهب, and in eating our flesh that they may become us. But they don't realize that it's not in the flesh, all is in the spirit. From what tree are we feeding off? And I encourage you, like Micah is saying, expect controversies and contention from thy rulers, from thy heads, from those who even prophesy and are priests, all corrupted according to this chapter, Micah 3. And all these are condemned by Jehovah Elohim. Be used of God as he appoints you to do. However, more in seeking that concealed blood, in that bone marrow, from which you can have might and strength, in defeating all kings, in defeating the 5, and more. 24 left. One defeated at Jericho, another at Ai, and the first 2. Sihon, warrior, and Og, long-necked, according to Yehoshua 12. Remember that this war is all in the spirit. We only still need to wait. Cut down that tree, the tree of death, Tov, Vara. Dude, Adam is down. Give me that axe. Okay, now what? Oh, good idea. And take care of the tree of life, and of these commandments, in all in bringing, in eating, and also making good fruit. For Jehovah looks forward on that harvest, on all that basket, that thou mayst be ready for the kingdom that is to come, that it starts from within you, that with grace, chen, ye be joyful and thankful. For though it may seem that we are forsaken in a world where there is little hope on how to live without being corrupted, our leaders are no good example. But as long as it is day, as long as Shemesh is above the horizon, Kava, you wait. How much of this light? But it's not that the light that we seek. It's of this or, this body covering, in humility, in increased added grace before night time, lest I be confounded and ashamed and abashed. As it reads in this chapter, verse 7, then shall the seers be ashamed, and the diviners confounded. Gain, they shall all cover their lips. For there is no answer of Elohim, but be full of the power, koech, et ruach Yehovah, umishpat, ugevurah, and of might, to declare le Yaakov his transgression, ule Israel chetatho, his sin. And therefore in looking for, as in pros dechomai or apek dechomai, and for that I'm referring actually to Galatians 5:5. He meis God numati ek pistеως. We, for through the Spirit, By faith, elpida dikaiosounes, the hope of righteousness, ἀπεκδεχόμεθα, eagerly wait. Noticing that it could be pros, before thee, and apeg, from out of, so apparently from within. We don't seek the light or, but in the seeking it. For in Bereshit 49, this is when Yaakov was about to die. And he said, as he speaks of Dan, judge, verse 18, Lithshuathecha kivithi Yehovah. For the salvation, our salvation, from out of all plagues, all oppression, and darkness. In seeking him and being full of eating of the flesh of Yehoshua, breaking the bread, and being matured for him, renewed every day, and rule with him then. The king to follow through. Don't be enticed by what the world at this moment crave for you to do in skills, experience, knowledge, or titles. For it's out of synchrony of God, of his laws, the essence of it all. No matter where you go, you will see corruption. It's not about building a better community or a place wherever you go. The earth is full of Satan's spirit leading people's lives. And that's the essence of the problem. And given that we stay close to this tree of life, in keeping these laws, in making sure that we wait and eagerly to his salvation, Jehovah's. For so far on earth, therefore, in verse 12, shall Zion parched place, sunny mountain, for your sake be plowed as a field. Jerusalem shall become heaps, and the mountain of the house as the high places of the forest. Flay. We speak forth his truths, and don't expect agreement, for even thy leaders in their times will conspire to destroy you. But Yehovah preserves his. Toda rabba, Yehovah, that thou hast given us of what is to come. It doesn't seem very nice for the moment, but that through the worst you may bring the best from you, from thy strength, from what thou canst do when a servant is yielded to thee. Amen. Roots for all evil, bad, ἐστιν φιλαργυρία, love for shining silver, and stretching your hand after these, you will astray about these pίστεως. Also, you will be pierced with many sorrows, and desiring to be pluck, fall into trial for fidelity, integrity, virtue, and into a trap, and desires of many, foolish and harmful, plunging into this pot, you end up in ruin and destruction. Are you in the right pot? Only if gain megas, Eusebeias, meta autacreas. Sufficiency, no matter what, for Theos gives you nourishment and raiment.
שנאי טוב ואהבי גזלי עורם מעליהם ושארם ואהב עצמותם ואשר אכלו שאר אבי
ועורם מעליהם
הפשיטו
ואהב
עצמותיהם פצחו
ארסו
גשר
מזיר
וכבשר What's for dinner? Ooh, wait to see.